One Russian satellite versus 3,000 Starlinks. Sounds like a fair fight, right? Wrong. It's like trying to shoot down a flock of birds with a single bullet. But here's the mind-blowing part. This failed attack just proved that space is the new Wild West. And Elon Musk? He's the sheriff with the fastest draw in town. Let's dive into how this cosmic showdown is reshaping global power dynamics. Picture this. 340 miles above Earth, a fierce battle rages. But there are no explosions, no visible combat. This isn't the opening scene of a sci-fi blockbuster. It's a real event that just occurred, marking a new era in warfare. Space has become the invisible battlefield of the 21st century. Satellite networks, once purely civilian infrastructure, have transformed into critical military assets. They provide communication, navigation, and intelligence capabilities that can make or break modern military operations. And at the center of this cosmic chess game? Starlink, Elon Musk's satellite internet constellation. Starlink wasn't designed for war. Its original purpose was to provide internet access to remote areas. But in an unexpected twist, it's become a game-changer in modern conflicts. In Ukraine, for example, Starlink has kept military communications alive when traditional systems failed under attack. So what exactly happened in this space battle? Russian forces, recognizing Starlink's strategic importance, launched a bold attack on the network. They attempted to jam Starlink's signals, hoping to cut off vital communication lines. It was a high-stakes gambit, targeting a civilian system that had become a military lifeline. But here's where things get interesting. The attack failed spectacularly. Starlink's network, with its thousands of small satellites, proved remarkably resilient. The Russian jamming attempts were like trying to catch smoke with a net. Futile and frustrating. This failed attack revealed something crucial. The rules of space warfare are being rewritten before our eyes. Traditional anti-satellite tactics, designed to take out large, singular targets, are useless against Starlink's swarm of small, interconnected satellites. The implications of this are enormous. It's not just about Starlink or even this particular conflict. This event signals a fundamental shift in how we think about space security, military strategy, and the very nature of warfare in the 21st century. But to truly understand why this matters, we need to look deeper at Starlink's importance. It's not just an internet provider. It's become a symbol of resilience in the face of aggression, a tool of democracy in conflict zones, and now, a potential shield against space-based attacks. The question is, how did a civilian internet service become such a crucial military asset? Let's find out. Imagine a war where the most powerful weapon isn't a missile or a tank, but a network of satellites. This isn't science fiction. It's the reality in Ukraine today. Starlink has become more than just an internet provider. It's a lifeline that's reshaping modern warfare. But how exactly does a civilian satellite network transform into a military game-changer? Traditional military communication systems are like a house of cards. They rely on ground-based infrastructure that's vulnerable to attack. One well-placed strike can topple the entire network, leaving troops in the dark. In Ukraine, this nightmare scenario became reality when Russian forces targeted communication towers and command centers. Enter Starlink. Elon Musk's satellite network stepped into the breach, providing a lifeline when all other systems failed. Unlike traditional systems, Starlink's constellation of thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit can't be easily disabled. It's like trying to stop a flood by blocking a single raindrop. But Starlink isn't just keeping the lights on. It's revolutionizing battlefield operations. Ukrainian forces are using Starlink to coordinate troop movements with unprecedented speed and precision. They're sending real-time intelligence that can mean the difference between victory and defeat. And perhaps most impressively, they're controlling drones that have become the eyes and ears of their military. Why is Starlink so crucial for Ukraine's military? It's all about flexibility and resilience. With Starlink, Ukrainian commanders can set up command posts anywhere there's a clear view of the sky. They can rapidly relocate without losing communication, and if one terminal is destroyed, they can quickly set up another. The impact on the battlefield has been dramatic. Ukrainian forces have used Starlink to call in artillery strikes with pinpoint accuracy. They've coordinated complex maneuvers across vast distances. and they've maintained command and control even when traditional communication lines were severed. But perhaps the most striking example of Starlink's military potential is its role in drone warfare. Ukrainian forces are using Starlink to pilot drones deep behind enemy lines, gathering crucial intelligence and even carrying out attacks. It's like having an invisible army that can strike anywhere, anytime. Military commanders in Ukraine have made it clear. Starlink isn't just a communication tool, it's a strategic advantage. It's allowed them to maintain operational capabilities in the face of overwhelming odds. In essence, Starlink has become the nervous system of Ukraine's military, transmitting vital information and commands across the battlefield. The success of Starlink in Ukraine has rewritten the rules of modern warfare. It's shown that in today's conflicts, information and connectivity can be as powerful as any traditional weapon. But this success has come at a price. Starlink's crucial role hasn't gone unnoticed by Ukraine's adversaries. As we're about to see, this civilian network has now become a prime military target, thrusting it into the center of a new kind of space-based conflict. The line between civilian and military technology has always been blurry, but Starlink's role in Ukraine has erased it completely. How far would Russia go to neutralize this unexpected threat? The answer would shock even the most seasoned military experts. Russia's strategic interest in disabling Starlink became clear as the satellite network proved invaluable to Ukraine's military efforts. With Starlink providing crucial communication and intelligence capabilities, Russian forces found themselves at a significant disadvantage. The decision to target this civilian infrastructure marked a dangerous escalation in the conflict. The unprecedented nature of attacking a civilian satellite network can't be overstated. Traditionally, military operations have focused on destroying enemy combatants and military assets. But Starlink's dual-use nature as both a civilian internet provider and a military asset blurred these lines. Russia's attack on Starlink represents a shift in warfare, where civilian technologies become legitimate military targets. So how did Russia attempt to destroy Starlink? Their approach was multifaceted and sophisticated. First, they employed jamming techniques, trying to disrupt the signals between Starlink satellites and ground terminals. This electronic warfare tactic aimed to create dead zones where communication would be impossible. But Russia didn't stop there. They also launched cyber attacks against Starlink's infrastructure, attempting to breach its security systems and potentially gain control over the network. These digital assaults ranged from DDoS, distributed denial of service, attacks to more complex hacking attempts targeting Starlink's command and control systems. Perhaps most alarmingly, there were reports of Russia testing anti-satellite weapons. While not confirmed to have been used against Starlink directly, the mere existence of such capabilities raises concerns about the potential for physical attacks on satellites in the future. The potential consequences of targeting civilian infrastructure like Starlink are far-reaching. It sets a dangerous precedent that could lead to the weaponization of space and put all satellite systems at risk. This could disrupt global communications, navigation systems, and even weather forecasting capabilities that we've come to rely on in our daily lives. Moreover, attacks on civilian infrastructure blur the lines between combatants and non-combatants in conflict zones. If civilian systems become legitimate military targets, it could lead to increased civilian casualties and widespread disruption of essential services. This attack on Starlink marks a new era in space-based conflicts. It demonstrates that the battlefield has expanded beyond Earth's atmosphere, with satellite networks becoming critical assets and targets in modern warfare. The rules of engagement in space are being rewritten, and the international community is scrambling to address these new challenges. But as we're about to see, Starlink wasn't as vulnerable as Russia thought. The network's resilience in the face of these attacks would reveal a new paradigm in satellite defense, one that could reshape our understanding of space warfare and global security. When Russia launched its attack on Starlink, military experts expected the network to crumble. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The assault revealed a hidden strength in Starlink's design, one that could fundamentally change how we approach satellite security in the future. Traditionally, satellite networks are vulnerable to targeted attacks. A single well-placed strike can disable critical nodes, potentially bringing down the entire system. When Russia unleashed its arsenal of electronic warfare and cyber attacks against Starlink, many anticipated a swift and decisive victory for the aggressors. But Starlink didn't just survive, it thrived. The network's performance during the Russian assault was nothing short of remarkable. While traditional satellite systems might have buckled under the pressure, Starlink's constellation of small, interconnected satellites proved remarkably resilient. What makes Starlink so difficult to disable? The answer lies in its unique design features. Unlike conventional satellite networks that rely on a few large, expensive satellites, Starlink consists of thousands of smaller, cheaper satellites working together. This decentralized approach means there's no single point of failure. Knocking out one or even dozens of satellites barely dents the network's overall capabilities. During the attack, Starlink's satellites showcased an impressive ability to adapt and respond automatically. When faced with jamming attempts, the network quickly rerouted communications through unaffected satellites. It's like a self-healing organism, instantly adapting to threats and maintaining functionality. The network's automatic responses went beyond simple rerouting. Starlink's satellites are equipped with advanced software that allows them to detect and counter electronic warfare tactics in real time. As Russian forces attempted to jam signals, Starlink's satellites adjusted their frequencies and signal strengths, effectively dodging the electronic punches thrown at them. Perhaps most impressively, Starlink demonstrated an ability to learn and improve its defenses on the fly. Each attempted attack provided valuable data, allowing the network to refine its countermeasures continuously. It's as if each failed assault made Starlink stronger and more resilient. The outcome of this space-based David versus Goliath battle was clear. Starlink emerged virtually unscathed. This unexpected resilience showcased a new level of satellite defense that few thought possible. It's not just that Starlink survived, it's that it did so with such apparent ease, turning what should have been a devastating attack into little more than a nuisance. The implications of Starlink's performance are profound. It suggests a future where satellite networks are no longer easy targets but resilient systems capable of withstanding sophisticated attacks. This could reshape military strategy, international relations, and our very understanding of space security. But the question remains, how exactly does this seemingly indestructible network function? The secret lies in Starlink's innovative design and cutting-edge technology. Let's take a closer look at the inner workings of this revolutionary satellite constellation. Imagine trying to sink a ship made of thousands of smaller, self-repairing boats. That's essentially what attackers face when targeting Starlink's network. This innovative design is revolutionizing satellite technology and redefining our understanding of network resilience. Starlink's approach is radically different from traditional satellite systems. Conventional networks rely on a handful of large, expensive satellites. These behemoths are prime targets. Knock one out, and you can cripple entire regions. It's like having all your eggs in one very vulnerable, very expensive basket. In contrast, Starlink's network is a decentralized marvel. Thousands of small satellites work together, constantly communicating and cooperating. Each satellite is relatively cheap and easy to replace. If one fails or gets taken out, the network barely notices. The system simply reroutes traffic through other satellites, maintaining seamless connectivity. What makes Starlink's network design nearly indestructible? It's all about redundancy and adaptability. Every Starlink satellite can communicate with multiple others, creating a web of connections. If one link breaks, data finds another path. It's like a self-healing mesh that automatically repairs any damage. The network's automatic rerouting capabilities are truly impressive. When a satellite detects interference or damage, it instantly alerts the system. Within seconds, the network reconfigures itself, redirecting traffic away from the affected area. This happens so quickly that users on the ground might not even notice a blip in their service. Load balancing is another key feature of Starlink's resilience. The network constantly monitors traffic and adjusts satellite workloads to prevent overload. If one area experiences heavy usage, nearby satellites pitch in to handle the excess. This dynamic redistribution ensures consistent performance across the entire network. Starlink's design also incorporates sophisticated anti-jamming technology. The satellites can detect interference and automatically switch to different frequencies or signal strengths to maintain connections. It's like having a radio that can instantly change stations to avoid static, but on a much grander scale. All these features combine to make Starlink incredibly difficult to disable. An attacker would need to simultaneously take out a significant portion of the network to have any noticeable impact. It's a task so daunting that it borders on impossible with current technology. But SpaceX isn't content to rest on its laurels. They're constantly working to improve Starlink's defenses and capabilities. As impressive as the current system is, it's just the beginning of a new era in satellite technology. The next generation of Starlink satellites promises even greater resilience and adaptability, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space-based networks. Remember how Starlink survived that Russian attack? That was just the beginning. SpaceX engineers have been working around the clock, and what they've come up with is nothing short of revolutionary. It's a system that learns, adapts, and grows stronger with every attempted breach. SpaceX isn't waiting for the next attack to happen. They're taking a proactive approach to satellite defense, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space. The company's engineers are in a race against time, developing new technologies and strategies to stay one step ahead of potential threats. One of the most exciting developments is the incorporation of artificial intelligence into Starlink's defense systems. These AI algorithms analyze patterns of interference and attacks in real time, allowing the network to predict and counter threats before they even materialize. It's like having a digital immune system that evolves and strengthens with each encounter. But that's not all. SpaceX is also experimenting with advanced materials that could make Starlink satellites more resilient to physical attacks. Imagine satellites covered in a skin that can self-heal from micrometeor impacts or even absorb and deflect energy from directed weapons. The Russian attack provided SpaceX engineers with a wealth of data to work with. They're using this information to fine-tune Starlink's defenses, closing vulnerabilities and enhancing its ability to operate under stress. Every attempted jamming, every cyber attack, becomes a lesson that makes the entire network stronger. One of the most impressive aspects of Starlink's evolution is its ability to learn and adapt from each attempted attack. The network uses machine learning algorithms to analyze patterns of interference and automatically develop countermeasures. It's as if each satellite is part of a giant space-based brain that's constantly learning and improving its defenses. This constant adaptation means that Starlink is becoming more resilient with each passing day. What worked against the network yesterday might be completely ineffective tomorrow. It's a dynamic defense system that's always changing, always improving, making it an incredibly difficult target for any potential adversary. The implications of this evolving defense system go far beyond just protecting internet connectivity. Starlink's resilience is changing the very nature of space-based assets and how we think about security in orbit. It's setting a new standard for satellite networks, one that could reshape military strategy, international relations, and the future of space exploration. As impressive as Starlink's current capabilities are, they're just the tip of the iceberg. SpaceX's relentless pursuit of innovation suggests that we're only seeing the beginning of what's possible in satellite defense technology. The question now is, how will this new paradigm of resilient, adaptive space networks change the world as we know it? SpaceX's innovations aren't just changing satellite technology, they're rewriting the rules of engagement in space. Traditional anti-satellite warfare tactics have become obsolete overnight. What does this mean for the future of military operations beyond Earth's atmosphere? For decades, space warfare strategies focused on taking out large, singular targets. Military planners developed sophisticated anti-satellite weapons designed to disable or destroy critical space assets. These ranged from ground-based missiles to orbital killer satellites capable of maneuvering close to their targets. The idea was simple: knock out key satellites and you could cripple an enemy's communication, navigation, and intelligence capabilities. But Starlink has changed the game entirely. How do you fight an enemy that's everywhere and nowhere at once? Traditional tactics are like trying to swat a swarm of bees with a tennis racket. Ineffective and likely to leave you worse off than when you started. The distributed nature of Starlink's network renders these old methods useless. Destroying a handful of satellites barely dents the system's overall functionality. Even if an attacker could somehow disable dozens or even hundreds of Starlink satellites, the network would quickly adapt, rerouting traffic and maintaining connectivity. This resilience has forced military strategists back to the drawing board. They're now grappling with a fundamental shift in how space-based assets operate and how to approach conflicts in orbit. The focus is moving away from targeting individual satellites to finding ways to disrupt entire networks, a much more complex and challenging task. As a result, we're seeing a rapid shift towards resilient, distributed satellite networks across the military and civilian sectors. The success of Starlink has demonstrated the power of this approach, and other nations and companies are racing to develop similar systems. The era of vulnerable, centralized satellite networks is coming to an end. Military planners are also reevaluating the role of space-based assets in overall strategy. With networks like Starlink proving so resilient, space capabilities are becoming even more critical to military operations. We're likely to see increased investment in space technologies and a greater emphasis on protecting and leveraging these assets in future conflicts. The implications of this shift are profound. It's not just about making satellites harder to destroy. It's about fundamentally changing the nature of control and power in orbit. In the past, space superiority often meant the ability to deny an enemy access to space. Now, it's more about ensuring your own access and capabilities can withstand any attack. The Starlink attack has done more than just showcase the network's resilience. It's fundamentally altered military thinking about space warfare. It's pushing strategists to think in terms of networks rather than individual assets, to prioritize adaptability over raw destructive power, and to consider space as an increasingly critical domain of warfare. But the ripple effects of this shift extend far beyond military strategy. The resilience demonstrated by Starlink has implications for global security, international relations, and the future of space exploration. As we'll see, the changing landscape of space warfare is reshaping how nations interact and cooperate in the final frontier. The Starlink attack has sent shockwaves through the international community, forcing nations to confront a new reality in space. As news of the failed assault spread, diplomats and military leaders worldwide scrambled to understand its implications. The rules of the game have indeed changed overnight, and countries are now racing to adapt. The international response to the Starlink attack has been a mix of concern, admiration, and strategic recalculation. Many nations have expressed alarm at the targeting of civilian infrastructure, viewing it as a dangerous escalation in space-based conflicts. At the same time, there's a grudging respect for Starlink's resilience, with some countries now seeking to develop their own robust satellite networks. Growing concerns about the militarization of space have taken center stage in diplomatic circles. The Starlink incident has highlighted how blurred the lines have become between civilian and military assets in orbit. This ambiguity raises troubling questions about the future of space as a peaceful domain. Some nations fear that space could become the next major battlefield, with devastating consequences for global communication and commerce. Other countries are reacting to Starlink's resilience with a mix of envy and determination. Many are now accelerating their own satellite programs, hoping to replicate Starlink's success. This has sparked what some are calling a new space race, with nations vying to develop the most resilient and capable satellite networks. The implications of this competition are far-reaching, potentially reshaping the balance of power both on Earth and in orbit. The global implications of targeting civilian satellite systems are profound. It sets a dangerous precedent that could lead to widespread disruption of essential services worldwide. From weather forecasting to global positioning systems, our modern world relies heavily on satellite technology. If these systems become fair game in conflicts, the collateral damage could be catastrophic. In response to these challenges, there are growing efforts to update international space laws and treaties. The existing legal framework, largely developed during the Cold War, is woefully inadequate for addressing the complexities of modern space warfare. Diplomats and legal experts are working to craft new agreements that protect civilian infrastructure while addressing legitimate security concerns. The Starlink attack is clearly reshaping global space policy. Nations are being forced to reconsider their approaches to space security, satellite development, and international cooperation. Some are calling for increased transparency in space activities, while others advocate for stronger defensive capabilities. The debate is intense, with the future of space exploration and utilization hanging in the balance. As we grapple with these changes, it's clear that we're entering a new era of space conflict. While Starlink's resilience offers hope for robust space-based systems, it also brings new risks. The potential for escalation in space-based conflicts is real, and the international community must work together to navigate these uncharted waters. The question now is, can we find a way to harness the benefits of advanced satellite technology without turning space into the next battlefield? As we contemplate the future of space, a critical question emerges. Is the militarization of space an inevitable consequence of technological progress, or a dangerous misstep that could jeopardize humanity's future among the stars? Resilient satellite networks like Starlink offer undeniable benefits. They provide robust communication systems that can withstand attacks, ensuring continued connectivity even in times of conflict. These networks support military operations, aid in disaster relief, and bring internet access to remote areas. Their resilience could also deter aggression, as potential adversaries might think twice before targeting a system that can easily absorb and adapt to attacks. However, the flip side of this technological advancement is deeply concerning. As space becomes increasingly militarized, we risk turning the final frontier into a battleground. The Starlink attack, while unsuccessful, has opened Pandora's box of space security issues. It set a precedent that civilian infrastructure in space could be considered a legitimate military target, blurring the lines between peaceful and military uses of orbit. The risk of escalating conflicts in space is very real. As more countries develop anti-satellite capabilities and resilient networks, we could see an arms race beyond Earth's atmosphere. This could lead to increased tensions and the potential for miscalculations that could have catastrophic consequences. Perhaps the most alarming risk of space militarization is its potential impact on future exploration. As orbital space becomes more crowded with military assets, it could become increasingly dangerous for scientific missions and commercial ventures. The dream of peaceful space exploration could be compromised by a constant state of orbital tension and potential conflict. One of the gravest concerns is the issue of space debris. Military actions in space, such as the destruction of satellites, could create vast amounts of orbital debris. This leads us to the terrifying possibility of Kessler syndrome, a scenario where the density of objects in low Earth orbit becomes so high that collisions between objects could cause a cascade, rendering entire orbits unusable for generations. This could not only hinder space exploration, but also cripple the satellite systems we rely on for communication, navigation, and weather forecasting. The Starlink attack has indeed opened a Pandora's box of space security issues. While it demonstrated the resilience of new satellite technologies, it also highlighted the vulnerabilities of our increasing reliance on space-based systems. We now face a delicate balancing act between harnessing the benefits of these advanced networks and preventing the weaponization of space. As we grapple with these challenges, one question looms large. Where do we go from here? How can we ensure that the promise of space technology doesn't lead us down a path of conflict and destruction? The answers to these questions will shape not just the future of space exploration, but the future of humanity itself. While we ponder the peaceful exploration of space, military strategists are already several steps ahead. Starlink's resilience against attack has sent shockwaves through defense departments worldwide. How is this seemingly civilian technology reshaping the future of global warfare? The concept of space as the new frontier of warfare is no longer science fiction. It's a reality that's rapidly unfolding before our eyes. As satellite networks become increasingly critical to military operations, we're witnessing the birth of a new era in combat strategy. The success of Starlink in withstanding sophisticated attacks has forced military planners to reevaluate their approach to space-based assets. This shift is having profound impacts on global security and power dynamics. Nations with advanced space capabilities now hold a significant advantage in potential conflicts. It's not just about having satellites in orbit anymore. It's about having resilient, adaptable networks that can withstand attacks and continue functioning under pressure. This new paradigm is reshaping the balance of power on the global stage. Starlink's success is driving a revolution in military strategies. Armed forces around the world are scrambling to develop their own resilient satellite networks. The ability to maintain communications, navigation, and intelligence-gathering capabilities in the face of enemy attacks is now seen as crucial to modern warfare. We're likely to see increased investment in space-based assets and a greater emphasis on protecting these critical systems. Emerging technologies for space-based defense and offense are advancing at a breakneck pace. We're seeing the development of sophisticated jamming systems, cyber warfare capabilities tailored for satellite networks, and even physical anti-satellite weapons. At the same time, defensive technologies are evolving, with satellites incorporating AI-driven threat detection and automated evasion maneuvers. Looking to the future, we can expect even more dramatic developments in satellite and space warfare. Imagine swarms of small, agile satellites that can rapidly reconfigure themselves to adapt to threats. Or consider the potential for space-based energy weapons that could disable enemy satellites without creating dangerous debris fields. The possibilities are both exciting and terrifying. As these technologies advance, space is becoming an integral part of military planning. We're likely to see the creation and expansion of dedicated space forces in many countries, mirroring the U.S. Space Force established in 2019. These new branches will focus on protecting space assets, developing offensive capabilities, and integrating space operations with traditional military activities. The militarization of space brings with it enormous responsibilities. As we stand on the brink of this new era in warfare, we must grapple with difficult questions about the ethics of space-based conflict and the potential consequences for civilian infrastructure. The choices we make now will shape the future of not just military operations, but of humanity's relationship with the final frontier. The Starlink incident has thrust us into a new era of space exploration and utilization. But as we reach for the stars, are we inadvertently turning the final frontier into the next battleground? This event might prove to be the catalyst that reshapes international space policy for decades to come. But will it lead to cooperation or conflict? Starlink's resilience in the face of attack has been nothing short of transformative. It's proven that satellite networks can withstand sophisticated assaults, offering hope for robust global communications even in times of conflict. This technological leap forward opens up exciting possibilities for scientific research, disaster response, and bringing internet access to remote areas. Yet, this same resilience has also highlighted the growing militarization of space. As nations rush to develop their own unbreakable networks, we risk turning Earth's orbit into a high-tech arms race. The line between civilian and military technology in space is blurring, raising troubling questions about the future of peaceful space exploration. The potential for progress is immense. Imagine a world where every corner of the globe has access to high-speed internet, where natural disasters can be predicted and responded to with unprecedented speed, where scientific instruments in orbit unlock the mysteries of the universe. These aren't just pipe dreams, they're within our grasp. But the risks of unchecked space militarization are equally staggering. We could see increased tensions between spacefaring nations, the weaponization of satellites, and the creation of dangerous space debris that could render entire orbits unusable. The dream of space as a realm of peaceful exploration and cooperation could be shattered. This crossroads demands a new era of international cooperation in space. The existing legal frameworks, largely developed during the Cold War, are woefully inadequate for addressing the complexities of modern space activities. We need updated treaties and agreements that protect civilian infrastructure while addressing legitimate security concerns. The Starlink attack has revealed a crucial truth about the future of global security. Space is now an integral part of our defense considerations, but it's also shown that resilient networks can potentially deter aggression. By making it harder to disable critical systems, we might actually reduce the likelihood of conflict. As we stand on the brink of this new space age, the choices we make now will shape the future of our species among the stars. Will we use our advancing technology to foster cooperation and scientific progress? Or will we allow our earthly conflicts to poison the final frontier? The Starlink incident marks the beginning of a new era in space. one filled with both incredible promise and grave risks. It's up to us to chart a course that balances progress with peace. We must prioritize responsible space utilization, fostering international cooperation while developing safeguards against misuse. The stars are within our reach. Let's ensure we grasp them with wisdom and foresight. The Starlink attack wasn't just a failed military operation. It was a wake-up call for humanity. This cosmic showdown revealed a new reality of space warfare, one where resilient networks can withstand sophisticated assaults. But it also highlighted the growing militarization of Earth's orbit, raising urgent questions about our future among the stars. We now stand at a critical crossroads. Will we allow space to become humanity's next battlefield, with satellites as the pawns in a high-tech chess game? Or can we seize this moment to forge unprecedented cooperation, using our technological advances to benefit all of humanity? The choices we make today will echo through the ages, shaping not just the future of space exploration, but the very destiny of our species. As we reach for the stars, we must decide, will we carry our conflicts with us or leave them behind on Earth?